Dive in on Gotta Watch the Tape from cleveland.com. Doug Lesmerises, Ellis Williams, Scott Patsko. We're diving in on a Browns play from the 2020 season to tell you about the 2021 season. This is going to be a lot about Joe Woods, and we're going to do it through the lens of a player in a play. So instead of me blathering about it, let's dive right in. We appreciate you guys joining us. Ellis Williams, dive in on Gotta Watch the Tape.
All right, as Doug set up, we're looking at Ronnie Harrison's Week 5 interception return touchdown against Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts. It was one of two defensive touchdowns for the Browns in 2020. This play was both Ronnie's coming out party and probably his best game of the year all at the same time. But this dive isn't about Ronnie Harrison, like I said. It's about Harrison and the other DBs being on the field at the same time and what it says about the Browns. So setting the scene, the Browns are up 20-10 opening the third quarter. Colts get the ball to start the second half after earning a first down. They now face a 3rd and 4, just 5 plays into that first series of the second half, but they are near midfield. Indy lines up in 11 personnel. That's 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. Keep that in mind. That's what a large part of this conversation will be about. They're in a balanced bunch formation with 2 receivers to each side of their tackles. The running back is split out wide, but he's going to get motion in to help Rivers decode information. We've talked plenty on this podcast what that does. And of course, the Browns aren't the only team in football that does it. On the motion, Ronnie Harrison rolls down from a top split safety into the box to defend the run or play the flats, because now the Browns are tipping their hand and declaring that they're in cover 3, a 1 high safety look. The Browns are in a sub package of their 4-3 base defense, meaning they have 4 defensive linemen down, but they don't have a 3rd linebacker on the field. At the snap, they loop. Garrett jackknifes inside, taking a double team. Shocker there. He'd faced the 3rd or 4th most in the league, depending on what metric you look at. Claiborne, getting around the edge, forces Phillip Rivers to step up, probably prematurely. When he does, Garrett wins his double team. Yet another shocker, only J.J. Watt, 1 more double teams. By spinning out of it, and meanwhile, Sheldon Richardson, the opposite defensive tackle in the other 3 technique, remains active, getting his hands in the passing lane and thus reducing the pocket. This forces a sideline throw that Rivers either thought was safe because he didn't see Ronnie Harrison drifting to the sideline. Perhaps he thought he would take the deep curl, which I'm going to get into why that would be in 1 second here. Or he was trying to throw it away and just didn't get enough under it. You guys, I went back and looked at the transcripts for this game and what Phillip Rivers had to say. And in classic Phillip Rivers fashion, he was asked about the pick twice. All he said was that it killed him. And when asked about why it happened, he said it was a bad play, and that's all I'm going to give you guys. So with Phillip Rivers not giving him much more to go off, either his arm shot or he made a terrible read. Either way, it doesn't change the result. This is a concept you could run 10 times a game and find an open guy on it. It's very frustrating to defend, but the Browns dominate this rep, you guys. They dominate it. It's the Colts bread and butter. You could kind of tell the Colts receivers weren't totally sound on their technique yet. They probably should have hitched up instead of keeping running the flats, but it doesn't change the fact that they got pressure with 4, they used a stunt, and the coverage was flawless, and it ends in a defensive touchdown. This is about Joe Woods. What does he want to run, and how can he run it? When we look back at that play, it worked because the Browns got pressure with 4. They did it in an exotic way, and they did it with 3 defensive ends on the field. Okay, check. They're able to do that there. On the back end, they're playing, safeties that they're comfortable with. We say what you want to about Sendejo. He had a nice rep here, and he did his job this year. They've got Ronnie Harrison on the field. He's a building block. He's a part of this future. And they've got a slot corner that they trust there, right? And, of course, Denzel Ward, Terrence Mitchell. The problem is the linebackers. This rep works because you don't ask B.J. Goodson and Malcolm Smith to do a whole lot, right? This is a flash in the pan. This obviously was not the norm for this Browns defense. And of course, it's not the norm for any defense to get pick 6s, but even if this was an incomplete pass, that's not going to be the norm for this Browns defense. It's not how the year went, and we had personnel groupings to show that earlier in the segment. Simply put, Joe Woods wants to play 5, maybe even 6 DBs at a time. Give them that opportunity. They're close. They're right there. Ronnie Harrison, Delpit, sign or draft another guy. They're that close to Joe Woods getting that dream to realize. But here's the point, and the more important one that I hope listeners come away with. The Browns are terrible against the exact style of offense they ran against teams. And given an offseason to figure this out, teams will do exactly that by August, considering we accomplished that in a 1-hour podcast, right? They know it. There's a decent chance. If we know it, there's a decent chance they do. At least you'd hope so, or we're in the wrong field, right? So that brings me to this conclusion, the Browns must find a stud linebacker. They just got to, or this issue will continue to fester.